Today I'll talk about Hattah, Finke and tapering for your training. Hey guys, welcome to MotoFit TV. My name is Andrew Hammer. Welcome to episode number 16. Today, I know normally we have a few questions that we talk about, but what I want to be able to talk about today is Hattah, because that's coming up in a few months, but also for those of you who are doing Finke and Hattah and what to be able to do with your training in the meantime. So I've got a previous video on Finke, which I'll get linked up for you here. But what we need to be able to work, or what I want to be able to talk about, is how to adjust your training between Finke and how to adjust your training leading up to Hattah. So a lot of people talk about, or a lot of riders and racers talk about being able to taper their training or deload with their training, okay? But the problem is with riders and racers, because you're doing so much riding and racing throughout the year, is you're doing a lot of tapering. So if you have 8 state rounds during the year, or 8 national events, and you have 8 state rounds, and then you do 8 club days, that's 24, we're looking at 24 rides or races over the year. So what that means is we're doing a shit ton of riding and racing, but it also means that if we're tapering for every single event, we're gonna have 24 weeks throughout the year where we're not actually training properly and we're just going through the motions, working towards being able to try and optimize our training and optimize our performance every single week, when it's just not doable. So what you need to be able to do is you need to be able to look at your calendar a year in advance and pick out all the important events for you. So in other words, why are you doing what you're doing? Why are you putting in the hard work with your training? Why are you putting in the hard work with your riding? So for those of you doing Finke and Hattah, they may be your big events for the year. So what you need to be able to make sure is that you're tapering leading up to Finke, then you get back into normal training afterwards and then taper into a week out leading into Hattah. So all tapering means is what you're doing with your training is you're decreasing the intensity and you're decreasing the load, okay? So you're decreasing the amount of volume you're doing. So if you normally do 4 sets of 12 squats with 50 kilos, then we drop that down and work with 4 sets of 12 at 30 kilos. So we're doing something light, but still moving. The most important part is that you stay in your routine. You continue to move, you continue to stay in your habit and be able to continue with your training rather than not training at all, okay? A lot of riders and racers use their training or they use riding and racing as an excuse not to train or not to train hard because they call it tapering or recovering leading up to race day. The problem is if we do that for every ride or race, we'd never get any solid training in. So it's important that you have those important events. So for some of you, that's going to be MX Nationals. So you're going to be focusing on MX Nationals and they're the big events for you. So the state rounds aren't that important for you. Club days aren't that important. Opens aren't that important. It's the Nationals, which are the really big event, which is really what you focus on. So you should only ever be tapering for the MX Nationals. If a state round comes up, a club day comes up, then what you need to be doing is continue to train as normal, okay? If you've been training consistently, the level of volume you're doing is not going to hinder your performance too much, okay? It's more about giving you the edge for the bigger events. It's not going to hold you back for the other events. So if you're training for Finke, you're training for Hattah, in between those two, it's important that after Finke you have a little bit of recovery for a couple of days, still moving, still getting in the gym, still doing something, okay, to be able to recover, and then working on being able to get back into your normal training for Hattah, okay? Not getting caught up in all the other little bits and pieces in between. So it's about that consistency. It's about being able to make sure that you are tapering only for the events that are important, not for all the other little things in between. Otherwise, you're going to spend most of your time not training and not doing any work, not progressing. You're going to get from where you are now in another 12 months, and you're still going to be in the same spot, not have progressed, not have been where you want to be. So with your training, what you want to be able to focus on is making sure that you have an emphasis on getting strong, okay? Everything needs to be predicated on strength. 80% of your training should be made up of getting stronger to help you on the bike, okay? That's what builds the endurance. So leading up to Finke, leading up to Hattah, your training needs to have a strong emphasis on building strength because that gives you the endurance. That's what makes everything a lot lighter. That's what makes everything a lot easier, rather than spending a shit ton of time on the cycle, bike, or running, or rowing, or doing whatever else, long distance cardio exercises, which aren't gonna help you strength-wise out on the bike. So that's just what I wanted to talk about today. So a little bit of a shorter episode for today. If you guys have any questions at all for our next episode, feel free to post them down below in the comment section, and we'll make sure that we get you featured in our next episode. So hashtag MotoFitTV, and write your question below if you'd like it answered on our show for next week, and I can try and help you out and get you on your way for the rest of the race season. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode, and I will see you guys next week. See ya.